A bit of a minor league roundup with you here because there's a lot going on in the minor leagues, and you guys obviously focus on them at Tigers Minor League Report, but we've got the Whitecaps here, but I think we should probably start with Lakeland and kind of go up from there. So they're in the process of, they clinched, I think, and now headed into the playoffs. So I'm curious if you've been watching them and what you find interesting from their run here.
You know what? This is going to be a disappointing answer. I'm sorry. I've not really been paying attention to them. I've actually been writing more about the big league team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been doing some writing about the big league team. I mean, I do the recaps for Tigers Minor League Report. But the two pitchers that I was paying attention to that were in Lakeland, I believe they're both hurt. And I kind of haven't been paying as much attention as probably other people have to Lakeland.
Well, we've got all of the other Tigers Minor League Report folks on speed dial, so we don't need to do that. Then I kind of wanted to talk some Major League ball with you here anyways. And we're going to have Zach Sudernick on at some point in time, the Lakeland play-by-play guy, and then we've got Greg Gagne comes on a lot here too when he's done with Erie. So yeah, we'll have a lot of coverage on that. So I'm curious. I did see that you wrote kind of a preview of the Marlins series, and that was a strange series. It just felt a little bit doomed at times. That whole extra innings sequence was a little odd in game 2. Obviously they straightened it out for game 3, but I just kind of got a weird feeling from that series as a whole. So I'm curious how it compared to kind of your preview here.
Yeah, I know we had Skubal going versus Sandy Alcantara, and obviously that was like a Cy Young versus Cy Young matchup, so that was interesting to see. Obviously, nobody expected Skubal to come out of the game so early, but he didn't look completely on his game in the beginning of that game anyway, which, obviously, that happens. Nobody's mad at Skubal. But it just seemed like they were getting some hard contact off of him. And then he kind of grabbed at that left side, and he ended up coming out of the game. Thank goodness he's okay. But I think I don't want to say we have an issue with starting pitching, but I think our starting pitching is just really inconsistent. And honestly, the game that went to extra innings with the Marlins, you don't score, you don't win. You know what I mean? We should have scored more runs at the end of the day. So really not much to say. It was just kind of a bad series.
It's an odd situation for the pitchers and the team to be in as a whole, because they had obviously a very strong start to the season. That first half was very solid. They sent multiple pitchers to the All-Star game. And in the second half, they just haven't seemed to have the same juice. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get out of Flaherty. Mize's numbers have totally flipped. But at the same time, they're getting reinforcements. I'm just hoping, I think a lot of what this end of the season run is going to be is figuring out who goes where, because they do have a lot of new pieces, and I do think there's some value to the new pieces. And I think the tangential value that's being provided is that they kind of knock everybody else down a little bit as far as not having to pitch them quite as often, especially in the bullpen, and give guys an extra game if they need it in the rotation or what have you, because now they have a surplus of guys that have started at least a game here for them this year and are starting quality guys or groomed to be starters. But it's just an odd place, because it's good that they're up. That's going to be a big difference from last year, where they were chasing all of last year at this time frame. So now hopefully that means they can position their pitchers for the stretch run.
Yeah, I think the good thing about Charlie Morton and Chris Paddock, I don't know if Chris Paddock's going to be back in the rotation for, the postseason or not. He had that good outing against the Yankees out of the bullpen, and then he came, I think it was in the Marlins series, he came out and I think he gave up 2 or 3 runs, but a couple walks, just didn't look great. But Charlie Morton has plenty of postseason experience, and I know, they say if a guy has postseason experience, obviously that's a plus, and some guys are just different in the postseason. So I'm kind of hoping, that, you know, that he's maybe a little bit better for us. He seems like he's been struggling a little bit. I don't know if it's one of those like end of the season things, and you know, they're going to make the postseason anyway. So it's like, I'm sure every game matters, but it's not like right now we're competing for, you know, the championship series or something. I'm pretty sure we're going to win the division. And I could be completely off base. Maybe, you know, there's like another struggle going on with him, but I'm banking on that these guys that have the postseason experience will do well for us, hopefully, because it seems to be that's where our issue is right now with starting pitching. Obviously, we lost Reese Olson. I don't know what his timeline looks like coming back. We obviously lost Jackson Jobe. He won't be back until next year, and it just seems like the guys who, you know, Paddock, Morton, and just kind of like your Gator Monteros, it seems like they're not going as deep into the game as we would want. And I don't know if that, when that spills over into the bullpen, if it becomes kind of like a fatigue thing and overuse thing. I just hope that we can, you know, somewhere find that balance before the postseason.
Yeah, Ashley, this is George, Big G, whatever you want to call me. There's a huge series starting tomorrow with Cleveland, and they've got 6 big games. 2 huge series with Cleveland.
They've
got 6 big games against Cleveland. That's really, I think, going to decide the Central. What's the pitch? What do you think is going to be the key to that series, other than obviously score more runs?
Right. You know, I think the key to that series is going to be to do what we were doing in the beginning of the season when we were doing really well. They were getting timely 2-out hits. The starting pitchers were going, you know, 6-ish, if not 7 innings. And the bullpen was doing its job. I mean, I know that sounds like probably pretty cliche, but I think, you know, the bottom of the lineup getting those timely 2-out hits truly does make all the difference, because when we're going 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, or, you know, and we're stranding 8+ guys, like, you're not going to win games. That way you're just not going to, and you can't ask that the starting pitching, you know, every single time gives up 1 run, 2 runs. That's not realistic. That's not going to happen. So, you know, I just feel like you need contribution kind of from everybody everywhere.
Especially because the pitching is where you normally see the fatigue as the season wears on, whereas with the hitters, they're able to get more days off. They're able to kind of take their breaks, and it's more periodic there. So, but yeah, that's interesting stuff. We'll come back and talk a little bit more Tigers with Ashley. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Elaine, Big G, and I are coming back with Ashely Couturier. I think I got that right. Of Tigers Minor League Report and Click on Detroit. We're covering a little Tigers here. And Big G, I thought, asked a good question about the Cleveland series, because it seems like no matter what they've done before this, a lot of the season comes down to that. The Guardians have been scuffling a little bit, but if they can still pull this out, if they go on a run here. So I'm hoping that if they have scuffled a little bit against Miami and in some of these other series, that they've got a little bit of a forward lean into this, into these upcoming Cleveland games. You there, Ashley?
Yeah. I'm here.
So what you've got on that? I know you talked about kind of the different elements and kind of getting those together. I feel like the bullpen has been a lot better. I know the numbers haven't always reflected that, depending on who's out there. Canely looks better. It looks like they're turning Montero into something. Hopefully Finnegan will be back soon. Vest has looked strong pretty much all season. And I do like that they've got some of these young guys floating into the bullpen, because guys like Melton, you mentioned Montero, he's been a little bit hit and miss, but if you can get Melton and Paddock and Montero and some of these other guys in the bullpen, that will limit the amount that you have to use some of the starters. So I'm curious if that's going to change their strategy. I feel like they're almost leaning away from trying to get more out of the starters and saying, hey, if we can get through the lineup one time with these guys, then we can do that 3 times with 3 different guys, because we've got so many more arms than we had at the beginning of the season.
You know, I see what you mean by that, but I honestly, I don't think that that's true. I think the pitching chaos last year we did because we had to. I think if we could get more innings out of Flaherty, we could get more innings out of Mize, that would be great. I mean, there's no reason these guys, they're season starters. There's no reason why they can't go 2, maybe 3 times through the lineup. Because I think the problem is if you keep depending on that bullpen, that's when the guys start to fatigue. Obviously we can get innings out of Milton. I don't know if they're going to have Cater Montero in the bullpen and he's going to be a long relief piece. Obviously Rafael Montero's gone a couple innings of long relief, but I think getting those innings out of the starters is important, especially if later on in the postseason run, or I don't know if you mean just the rest of the regular season or the rest of the postseason, but I feel like you really have to kind of maintain that balance, and those innings out of starters are really important because once you fatigue that bullpen, like once the starters get fatigued and then you fatigue the bullpen, then what do you do? I think that's when you kind of start to have the issue. So you have to maintain that balance out of both.
It's funny because I kind of was with you all season until just recently when they've gotten the extra arms in there. Cobb may be trending towards the roster here. They're getting more guys returning. So just using all those pieces, I feel like they might be seeing a little bit of fatigue out of those guys already. So I totally hear your point, and I was on that side. I think I still am on that side to a degree, but I'm just seeing a shift maybe philosophically a little bit. But I think Elaine has a question for you here.
But I think at the end of the day, the goal is to win games, right? So however you get there is how you get there. But I think looking at it, kind of in the long term, looking at the big picture, again, I think it is important to get innings out of those starting pitchers as well.
Yeah. So I kind of want to veer away from the pitching because these games are pretty, like you guys said, they're pretty important against Cleveland coming up. One of the things I've enjoyed watching Detroit this season is I feel like they field well, but also like their hitting, it's not just long balls, right? And they do know how to run the bases. And move them along. Do you feel like that will be something they'll have a leg up on Cleveland, or do you think Cleveland's going to come in ready for that?
Oh, 100%. I think we're really good at base running, and then kind of on top of that, you mentioned the defense. I believe the last time I looked, and this was maybe a week or two ago, that we were the team that let in the least amount of stolen bases. Obviously, we have Dingler, behind the dish, who's great at throwing guys out. I believe he has like the fastest arm speed in the league as far as like catchers throwing. So we have that going for us. I think that's really important, and that's something that people overlook is because every single out counts. So when you have a catcher that can get an out in the middle of the inning when maybe the pitcher's struggling, maybe the pitcher's fatigued, I think that's a really big thing. I think you're right. Our defense has been great, and I think our base running has been great. That's one thing that I really love about, just like you said, like this team in general, is if you're able to manufacture runs on the bases, I think, guys getting thrown out at home or guys getting thrown out, which that doesn't really happen that much. But when they do get thrown out on the bases, I think it's worth that risk when you're manufacturing the runs. And when, the other team knows that you are a threat to steal bases, I think it can mess with them. It can mess with their pitcher. It can mess with their defense. And that's when things like mental mistakes happen. So I think, applying that pressure and continuing to steal bases that's been a key part of our game this year.
Yeah, and how important do you think it is, though, for them to start these games strong and take the lead fast from Cleveland?
Oh, very important. I mean, I think another key to winning the series will be getting their starting pitching out of the game fast, because the faster you can get to that bullpen and the faster you can fatigue that bullpen, obviously is a great strategy, but I think they need to be aggressive because Cleveland is aggressive. You look at the way that they play the game, and I feel like looking at that organization and the way that they draft and the type of players that they acquire guys that can impact the ball. And, they have guys like Stephen Kwan who they're getting those timely 2-out hits. And how do you get to teams like that? You come out swinging. Obviously, you're making, when I say come out swinging, you're still making good swing decisions. But I think that you have to be aggressive with teams like that because they're aggressive and they are relentless.
And just try to avoid Jose Ramirez, because I feel like that's the key to any Cleveland series. He's a notorious Tiger killer. He's great.
I love him. I love Javi Baez, so I'm really excited for this series.
There's a couple guys on Cleveland that I've always really respected. Ramirez and Ashley mentioned the other one. I'm a big Stephen Kwan guy. I just think he's a tough at bat every time. He's great in the field. So it should be a fun series here. I'm glad we were able to talk about it. Ashley, tell people where they can follow you here. I know you're in multiple places now.
I'm kind of all over the place now. So you can follow me on Twitter or X, at ASHELIVCOUT. And I do recaps for Tigers Minor League Report every week. I'll come out with the occasional draft article, usually, around kind of the draft time. And then you can follow me at Click on Detroit. Or it's WDIV Detroit, but Click on Detroit on their website. You can find me writing Tigers articles almost every single day.
Check Ashley out, and all the folks over at Tigers Minor League Report will be cycling them in as we get ready for hopefully a longer playoff run. But we appreciate you joining the show, and we'll look forward to having you on again here, Ashley.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh is brought to you by Mary Freebed, Collectible Insurance Services, West Michigan Eye Care Associates, Eric Hall, DDS, Calder Financial Group, Grand Management, Rydan Investments, JH Realty Partners, and Encore Business Group. Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh airs live Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern on Jethro.fm.
Stay informed and stay vigilant.